So, this is Winston Churchill's speech on the Munich Agreement on October 5th, 1938. This was a time when Hitler was really trying to expand his land. So he was attacking everybody, or trying to attack everybody. And Hitler had already attacked France, and Winston Churchill was like, hey, we need to do something. So he talked to the Prime Minister of France, and he was also there to see the Munich Agreement. So he came back from the Munich Agreement Conference, and he gave a speech to the House of Commons. And this is how long the speech is. Not very long. Oh, here we go. This is a picture of him with a victory sign. So, after having seen the destruction in France, he went to the House of Commons and he pleaded with them to do something about this, because he knew if they didn't stop Hitler, then they would be next. So he starts his speech by saying, "If I do not begin this afternoon by paying the usual and indeed almost invariable tributes to the Prime Minister of France for his handling of this crisis, it is certainly not from any lack of personal regard." So he's saying that he has to pay respects to France. And if he doesn't, he's basically just saying that he's paying his respects to France. So throughout his speech, he uses urgent diction, painful pathos, and varying sentence length. His diction is urgent, painful, and shocking. He uses words such as immense exertions and anguish and strain. He says, "The utmost my right honorable friend the Prime Minister has been able to secure by all his immense exertions, by all the great efforts and mobilization which took place in this country, and by all the anguish and strain through which we have passed in this country." So he's saying that friend the Prime Minister has put in a lot of emotions and a lot of work, and that he has been through a lot of anguish and strain. So we should feel sorry for them. And his words also portray the arduous efforts of France. There's a picture of soldiers in front of the Eiffel Tower. He also uses the words dangers and reckoning. He says, "Can we blind ourselves to the great change which has taken place in the military situation and to the dangers we have to meet? This is only the beginning of the reckoning." By using these words, he relates directly to the audience by emphasizing that England is on the brink of destruction from the Nazis. And there's a picture of people in the underground in London trying to avoid being bombed. The diction plays directly into the hearts of his audience, which increases his chance of actually making a difference in stopping the Nazis. He also uses rhetorical devices. "Having thus fortified myself by the example of others," that's ethos, "I will proceed to emulate them. I will, therefore, begin by saying the most unpopular and most unwelcome thing. I will begin by saying what everybody would like to ignore or forget, pathos, but which must nevertheless be stated, namely, that we have sustained a total and unmitigated defeat, and that France has suffered even more than we have. Logos. So, by using ethos and logos, he instills a sense of trust and comfort into his audience. So, by saying that he has looked at what other people have done before, and he strengthened his knowledge on the subject, he knows what he's talking about, and people can trust him. And also, by being logical, people know that he's not making any rash decisions. And the diction also plays into the pathos, which acts on people's emotions and elicits feelings of sympathy, which will in turn make them want to actually step in and do something. So, as I said before, the pathos contributes to the urgent tone and connects to the audience's heart, which is, in this case, the House of Commons. He says, if the Nazi dictator should choose to look westward, to England and France, as he may, bitterly will France and England regret the loss of that fine army of ancient Bohemia. So he's saying that if they don't do something right now, then they'll regret it bitterly, and they don't want that weighing on their conscience. Also, their country will be gone, and they won't have anything left. So they should really do something. And he also uses varying syntax. This is a picture of the House of Commons. He uses long, then short sentences to grab back attention. And the short sentences also serve as a buffer between juxtapositions. He uses long sentences to describe, for example, how France tried really hard to fight against the Germans, but in the end they lost, and they're suffering. But Hitler has everything that he wants. He's living a comfortable life, and he hasn't suffered anything. And he's heartless and cruel. So, as you can see here, he uses this really long sentence. And, yeah, basically what he's saying is that France tried really hard, and in the end, Hitler still took over Czechoslovakia. And then he also says right here, I thought I might be allowed to make that point in its due place. So, if you lost yourself in here, he catches your attention back right here. And then you're like, why would he say that? So then that means you would pay more attention and actually listen. So then he uses another long sentence here, and he says, well, I'm not going to read that because it's really long. But, yeah. Basically here, he's saying that Nazi Germany has the choice to whatever they want. So here, he's saying that France tried really hard, and they still lost. And then he has his buffer. And then he says that Germany has everything they want. So, in his speech, he appeals to his audience's heart to stop the Nazis, because he knows that if they don't step in, things will get worse, and the Nazis could attack them at any second. And, in fact, they later did. He effectively makes his point that they need to step in and do something, which was his purpose overall. He instills trust in his audience by using logos and ethos. He uses tone words to portray the urgency of the situation. And he also uses pathos to portray the urgency. And he pleads with the audience. He's begging them to do something. So, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. My speech was not very long, but he did use his devices effectively. I'd like to also add that his speech was effective, and England did, in fact, fight back against Germany.